Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Today we're tackling the psychology of money. And wow, I gotta say, these excerpts you sent over have been eye-opening.
Definitely not your typical finance book, that's for sure.
It seems like it goes way beyond just like the numbers. It gets in the nitty-gritty of how we think about money, how our brains are wired for all this stuff.
Exactly. And that's actually the core idea of the book, that to really master your money, you got to master your mindset first. It's more about psychology than like just crunching numbers and memorizing formulas.
So it's saying my fancy spreadsheets are only half the battle.
Pretty much. The other half is understanding your own behavior, your emotions, your biases. All that plays a huge role in your financial decisions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Like, I know I should be saving more for retirement, but sometimes the fear of missing out, FOMO, makes me want to splurge on, like, a vacation or something.
Oh, totally. The book uses a lot of real life stories, really relatable ones, to show how these emotions, whether it's fear or greed or even just plain old impatience, can totally sabotage our best intentions.
I mean, everyone can relate to that, right? You have the best plan in the world,
Yeah.
and then bam, your emotions take over. But I gotta say, sometimes it feels like luck plays a bigger role than we want to admit.
That's a really interesting point, and the book actually dives into that whole luck versus skill debate. It argues that we often mistake luck for skill, especially when it comes to investing, like seeing someone else win big and thinking, oh, they must be a genius. But in reality, there's a lot of external factors, things totally outside of our control, that contribute to success or failure.
So are we saying we're all just playing the lottery with our finances?
Not necessarily, but it's about recognizing that luck and risk are always going to be part of the equation. The book's point is not to avoid risk altogether, but to be aware of it, understand how it works, and make decisions accordingly. Diversify your investments, have a plan for different scenarios, that kind of thing.
Okay, so we've got emotions, luck, risk. Sounds like a lot to manage. Where does something like, say, compound interest fit into all of this? Because that always felt like more of a math thing to me.
It is math, but it's also a perfect example of how psychology plays a role. See, the book talks about how most people get tripped up by the fact that compounding takes time. It's not flashy, it's not instant gratification, it's like this slow burn that builds and builds over years and decades.
I feel like I've heard it described as a snowball rolling downhill, gaining more snow as it goes.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that the earlier you start, the more time that snowball has to grow, the more powerful that effect becomes.
Okay, so I'm getting the snowball analogy, but give me a real-world example. Like, how much of a difference can compounding actually make?
Well, there's this one story in the book that really stuck with me. It's about someone who invested just $1,000 when they were 20 years old. Fast forward to retirement, and that initial investment had grown to over $100,000 just from letting it sit there and compound.
Wow, okay, snowball effect is officially real. Makes me wish I'd started investing, like, yesterday. But it also makes me think about something the book kept coming back to, the difference between being rich and being wealthy. I always thought those were the same thing.
Right, it's easy to use those terms interchangeably. But the book makes a really important distinction. Being rich is about having a high income, a lot of money coming in. But being wealthy is about having true financial security and freedom. It's not just about the money itself, it's about what that money allows you to do. Have control over your time, pursue your passions, make choices without constantly stressing about finances.
I like that. So it's not about the number in your bank account. It's more like, what does that number allow you to do with your life?
Exactly. It's much more personal, tied to what you value most.
So, like, for some people, financial freedom might mean retiring early, while for others, it might mean being able to travel the world or start their own business.
Absolutely. The book really encourages you to define what wealth means to you, what your ideal life looks like, and then work backwards from there.
That makes sense. But how do we actually get there? It can all feel so overwhelming.
That's where the practical side of the book comes in. It provides a bunch of strategies for achieving financial freedom, like setting clear goals, budgeting, and something called lifestyle inflation, which is basically like avoiding the trap of spending more just because you're earning more.
Oh, I am so guilty of lifestyle inflation. Get a raise, buy fancier coffee.
We've all been there. But the key is being mindful of it. And one thing that really stood out to me about this book was how it used stories to drive these points home. It wasn't just like dry financial advice, it was real people making real decisions, making mistakes, learning from them. And those stories make the whole thing much more relatable, less intimidating.
It's like learning from other people's experiences, so you don't have to make the same mistakes yourself.
Exactly. And ultimately, the book reminds us that financial well-being isn't just about accumulating wealth, it's about aligning your financial decisions with your values, with what truly matters to you.
I love that. So instead of chasing some arbitrary number, it's more about asking ourselves, what kind of life do I want to live? And how can my finances support that vision?
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's a question we can all be thinking about, regardless of our income level or financial situation.
Such a great takeaway. We've covered a lot today, from the psychology of our money habits to the power of compounding and defining what true wealth means to each of us. If you want to dive deeper into these ideas, and trust me, it's worth it. I highly recommend checking out The Psychology of Money.
It might just change the way you think about money forever.
And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to start that snowball rolling a little sooner rather than later. Until next time, everyone.
Take care.